We are live. Good evening, viewers. It is wonderful to see all of you back again. Thursday, we are here. Me and Girijaa, your expert on international culture and a person who's always uh, talking to you about history and its relevance today, which is the most important learning that we all need to have, especially in view of today's topic. So, today, what are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about the invasion of the Mohammedans on India and its impact on the country. Now, the other day we had uh, our Professor Sanjay Dikshit, and he was talking about how Islam came about, the name Islam came about much later. So that is why I would prefer to use the term Mohammedan. And interchangeably, it is used for Islam by many people. So, the most important point that we are discussing here is when we all studied history, at least I remember what I studied in history is the books always said that, the Mohammedan rulers, they ruled over India for about 800 years and the different dynasties and all of them were described. And it was said that they built many mosques, a lot of beautiful architecture they brought into the country. They planted several trees all around, laid huge roads for the public. That's it. And they brought in music, culture, poetry, Persian poetry, a lot of stuff. But nothing was told about the destruction, the murder of so many Hindus, the persecution, uh, the rape, and the kind of atrocities performed on women. Nothing. So I just began to wonder why this, we want to put people in a create a fiction of imagination and make people believe, create a world of make believe that everything is hunky dory. We all live in unity, we have always lived in unity. Why did we create that? That is the first question that comes to my mind. So I would rather first start with that, as to why probably this kind of a fiction of imagination was created. Was it because it is convenient, or did they want to specifically create a narrative? Was it intentional? What actually happened? If you can go back and then you can tell us something about it.
Okay, let me first tell all the viewers that this program, I'm not a guest here. Girijaa and myself, we are doing it together and
Yes.
sharing information that is relevant for us
Yes.
and relevant for all of us, actually. So, in my case, what happens is that ever since I came to this country in 1991, it is that time that I began to go deeper into the study of our own country, because I was required to answer the questions to the American audiences as to why we are the Hindus. We are not the Abrahamic faith. We have so many gods, and we have the narrative about India at that time was the snake charmers, the elephant guys, who abuse their women. We had no political or spiritual mark in this country.
Okay.
I mean, many of us do not know that. We thought that
Yes.
because we are the way we are, everybody knows about us. Nobody knew about us. And I
Yes.
experienced this firsthand. I do not know. Let's just go back in your mind, like Girijaa mentioned about going back in history. Whatever you were doing in 1991 April, that was the time when I came here. And I
Okay.
was fresh off the boat, and I had to market India's capabilities as a business and economics destination for American businesses. So think about it.
Tough job.
It was a job which was really totally new,
Absolutely.
all single handedly, and nobody to help. So when you launch yourself in that environment, it was not that I was thrown into the water and I began to learn swimming, but I remember what my boss told me that we were very competitive people. He said, barring competency aside, the reason why I'm choosing you to go for this assignment because you have worked for Reserve Bank of India as well. So you are one of those people who has his head on the shoulder. You will not be hit by the glamour of America, and you have your head screwed in right place to handle things in the most appropriate manner. That was a nice compliment he paid me. And I'm patting myself on the back for that. So the point of
Yes.
the matter is very simple. It is then that I realized that this society is very different. Is very different. They ask you questions.
Yes.
Why are you like this? This society is encouraged by the spirit of inquiry. Even children are not told to ask questions. Do your parents beat you up? Do they treat you well? This kind of a questioning will never happen in India. So there is a massive socio-cultural gap that you have to understand. That you do not take affront to a question, but you answer the question, because this is the country that taught the world there are no stupid questions, there are only stupid answers, because you do not know. But the question is an inquiry. And very soon I realized it in my trip to Disneyland. When I went with my son, it said that if you want to look at the world in a new way, look at it through the eyes of a child. Because the child has no preconceived notion of anything. The
Yes.
child observes. There is a curiosity in the eyes. So that's what the purpose. And then I began to study about my own practices, the Hinduism, India. We have such glorious past. We have such a glorious history, tradition. We are very proud of our knowledge base, Sanatan Dharma, Vedas, Advaita, and the whole 99 yards of thing opened up. And I realized that we are really so good, but nobody knows about us. So this is what is important, as if British did a good to us, as if the Mughal rule and Mughal invasion did good to us for
Lord,
good.
absolutely.
That was
Absolutely.
such a baloney that I realized that
Yes.
these people, the East India Company later, but the Mughal invasions that happened to India
Yes.
was because India was a rich and prosperous country. We were
Yes.
very wealthy. We had 26% of the world trade at that time. And these people came
To plunder.
to plunder. I mean, this is a classic historical way. They were not immigrants to our
Yes.
country. They were not H1, H1, L1 visa entrants coming to the country, or they were coming to India to participate in the incredible India tourism program. They came to
Yes.
loot and plunder. And when they
Yeah.
found that this is a group of people whose motto is Atithi Satkar, Atithi Devo
Yes.
Bhava, let's
Yes.
loot them.
Come
That's the way
on.
it
Yes.
happened. They exploited
Yeah.
on the wealth, richness, and our generosity.
Yes.
And that's the question which we have to answer. That's where the East India Company came. They were traders.
Yes.
They took
Yeah.
over us. They
Yes.
exploited the Hindu-Muslim divide. So, this is one thing which always bothers me. And I began to
Yes.
realize that what good did any invader do to India, to us?
No, nothing.
We are even
Absolutely.
told upon, even mighty people like Shashi Tharoor talk about the English language. The English gave us English and the railways. Damn it. We were 26% of the world trade without English. Everybody forgets that. We have to regain our we have to regain our glory and pride in who we were. This I call the Mughal and the British rule in India as India's dark age,
Yeah.
where we were made to lose and forget. So what has happened, what you are talking about is a very significant aspect, is that what good did it do to us? How
Yes.
come we forgot about all of it? So I have studied history just as you did, and I suppose everybody else has.
And
In
not
these
only,
books I read, it is all about Mughal rule. There was no mention about there were so many Indian kings who ruled the place. Their dynasties are
exactly.
as if these people came and rest of it is all blank.
Yes.
So many fill in the blanks. And there is one thing I always attribute. The Congress party rule to the country did an incalculable damage to Hindus. Knowingly or
Yes.
unknowingly, I do not know, because I can't go back into the minds of Nehru or the rulers at that time. But look at the
Yeah.
history. We had first 5 education ministers of this country were all Muslims,
Yes.
hardcore Muslims. As Sanjay ji said in our program, they were hardcore Muslims sworn to their
Yeah.
Sharia and their way of life. And if Sharia tells you that is the only way to govern, they
Yeah.
began to project Islam in a very positive light. We know that If Mughal architecture is so something so divine and so great, how come we don't see any of it in Middle East or anywhere else? It's a question. I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not saying that those people were liars. I'm saying that hey, if this country allowed the architecture to blossom,
Blossom. Exactly.
where is the architecture elsewhere?
Yes.
It's a food for thought.
Absolutely.
You imagine
Absolutely.
there are brilliant mosques in UAE and Saudi Arabia and many Islamic countries, but I don't see anything other than mosques. Rest of this is Western buildings. So
Yes.
India has had to endure for political reasons, so that there is no anger against Islam in Hindus.
That's right.
And the British ruled that part of it very strongly. They are the ones who had put the seeds of discord between Hindus and Muslims, because they had said that Hindu rule will be disastrous for the Muslims. And that's what is critical for us to understand, that we have to regain our glory, our past, our history, and regain that with sense of pride, and putting things in proper perspective and in place. That's key.
That is true. So when we discuss about how the history books uh, do not present rather a very distorted version, we realize that a Holocaust has happened in Germany, and the Germans are okay to talk about it. In fact, if anybody denies that, it is considered illegal, it seems, in Germany. And then in so many other countries, like for example, Genghis Khan came to India, and book now studies show that when he came to India, he created pyramids of skulls,
Right.
because of which so many people were killed, and lands which were open for cultivation, they turned into forests. So the temperature of the planet cooled down because of that. That is the kind of effect that Genghis Khan's rule gave. But still we have chosen to just push it under the carpet, that huge elephant, right? So when we read about that, we all thought always the climatic changes happened because of industrial revolution, because people began to use things. No, it has started even at that time because of Genghis Khan. So study has shown this, and I was really shocked. Such a huge impact. So many lives he must have killed, that people have all been, all those places have become depopulated, and they have turned into forests, and they have also, emitted carbon dioxide. That is how the world became cool. But we have just learned to ignore that. So we realize that there is so much of trying to push under the carpet, so many important things that happen to the country, so many atrocities that happen to the nation. And what end have we done it? What are we trying to achieve through that? Are we afraid that it is going to have some negative impact? Or do we think that people are going to rise in rebellion? We want to maintain a sense of veneer of peace. That is why we are doing it. That is another question. So, when I was just going through the history, what I found is that there was an attempt to uh, talk less about these atrocities done by the Muslims first. And this started even before, prior to independence. This started prior to independence. The British themselves started talking less about the atrocities done by the Muslims.
Hmm.
Then Jawaharlal Nehru himself, when he writes about the history of India, he only talks about the Islam being a very noble religion. He says Muhammad of Ghazni, he appreciated and admired Indian architecture. He says thousands of angels could not have built such noble temples, such huge temples, even in 1,000 years. And then he also said that looked at those temples, and he said they are so sound and solid, as firm as the faith of the faithful. And then after saying this, he ordered for the destruction of the temples. And what does Nehru say about it? He simply says, he does not say it is because of the belief in Islam, or that Islam suggests that the infidels should be punished and their temple should be destroyed. There should be desecration of idol worship, should not be allowed. No, he says they are valiant people. They are very brave people. They wanted to establish their power. That is why they did it. So that is again a utter violation of the facts, absolute complete distortion of facts. And then next came Indira Gandhi. And when Indira Gandhi wanted to, she gave the authority to design the textbooks to certain Marxists. In fact, Sanjay Gandhi was looking after it, and he gave it to two certain Marxist scholars, and so they completed the damage. So all the textbooks were all written from the perspective, or rather to favor the Mughal emperors. So what happened is, though, as I said, in several other countries, people are not allowed to, speak about something that really happened, as though deny that. Negationism is not accepted in other countries. But in India, people who do that are favored. They are given powerful positions. That is what we observe. And that is a very sad part.
It is indeed a very sad part, because this is virtually uprooting the Hindus from their belief systems completely.
Absolutely.
And that's what you see, was I was referring to, that post-independence, there was a time to correct the perception and establish the reality. It
Yeah.
didn't happen. It didn't happen. I mean, I remember in the history books, you used to read the chapters about Mughal rule, and in between there will be Shivaji. In between there will be a mention of Maharana Pratap. But there was no Chola Empire, no Vijayanagar Empire. Nothing was taught in a manner that
Yes.
talked about our history. No Vedas, no Puranas, no Mahabharata, no Gita, no study of the immense literature that we had. So
Exactly.
the point which I am trying to make now is that you are absolutely right, that these people, the Congress party, played the religious political gambit. As a very dear friend of mine in Delhi told me once, his name is, I'm hiding his name, I'm just mentioning a name, say Javed Bhai. He told me, hey, Vibhuti, and I'm trying to use his tone. He said, Yaar Mudaliyar ho ya Murti ho, Sinha ho ya Thakur ho, Mishra ho ya Patekar ho, ठाकुर हो या जो भी हो, आप लड़ेंगे इलेक्शन, लेकिन वोट तो हमारे वोट से आप जीतेंगे. See, there was a very interesting part mentioned, that the Hindu votes will be divided, but my vote will matter. Till today, Muslims vote en bloc. It's only Mr. Modi who made the difference, that he brought the inclusiveness, that so many people voted for Modi. It was not only Hindu votes. Modi cut across the barrier of voting.
Absolutely.
The point which I'm trying to make here is that Congress party, even today, if you see Rahul Gandhi's statements, I mean, he's so ridiculous, that he openly pampers. He openly
Yes.
pampers that.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
Congress party indulged in the
Favoritism.
politics of appeasement.
Appeasement.
Whereas in reality, if you look at our factual history of Ramayana and Mahabharata, you notice that both these epics have taught us a lesson, that appeasement never worked. Think about it. This is the lesson I have personally drawn with the study, not reading, but the study
Yes.
of Ramayana and Mahabharata, that
Right.
how much did Krishna and Arjun, Pandavas tried appeasing Duryodhan ki, give me at least even 5 dhur of land
One village.
for me
Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
right? How much did Ram and Lakshman, Ramayana is about appeasement. Appeasement never works. That's the lesson. Even today, we could keep committing the same mistake of trying to appease Pakistan, which is a belligerent country, keeps asking us for evidence against 2611. So that is what is important to understand for us Indians now going forward. Now,
Yes.
I am in my television conversations, I do not, like to dwell upon the past as much,
Yes.
because I have fought this battle single-handedly in this country. I have answered questions to the Western audience which have ranged from sublime to stupid. Why we have so many gods, why we don't eat beef. I have answered all those questions, and I will share that with the people here. That these two examples of why so many gods and why we don't eat beef, I gave my own rationale and logic for that. So the
Right.
question here is that we have to now begin to act, every one of us, because
Yes.
our faith, our way of life is in direct conflict with Christianity and Islam. That's
Yes.
why both these faiths attack us as ridiculous as idol worshippers. These people are polytheistic. They have no God. They make us feel godless, not realizing how spiritual we are.
Absolutely.
So these are questions that we have to begin to answer, and that will happen only if,
Yes.
only if, as a very bright Tamilian Harvard scholar once told us in Bankers Club in Bangalore, that Hindus and Indians do not need to go to Harvard and Yale to learn management. They have to study their own Mahabharat and own Ramayana, because that's where the lessons, and Puranas and everything else, which is where the lessons of management exist. Mind you, he said, don't read, study. And that's you say that all the values, they exist in these in these truth that is depicted in our text. So my request to everybody will be, go back, study Bhagavad Gita, study Ramayana, study the stories of Mahabharata, and you will get the real life lessons. And we have to kind of become aware of that. So, I tell you, Girijaa, it is so important to remember that
Yes.
various aspects of our life have scientific meaning. Our
Absolutely.
Sanatan Dharma is entirely scientific. Christianity and Islam is not. They tell you that this is the only way. Allah is supreme. I'm perfectly fine with that. If that's what you believe in, good for you. I'm not against that. But don't
Right.
tell me I'm wrong about mine. Because
Absolutely.
I don't say you are
Absolutely.
wrong about yours. Same way,
Yes.
if you believe Jesus is the way that gives you bliss and heaven, Jesus is the only way to get you to heaven, good for you. Go to heaven.
Yes.
Let me find my own path to heaven. That's
Exactly.
who we are. My heaven is here. Once I'm
Yes.
dead, I don't know where I'm going. My physical entity is right here. So that's
Absolutely.
how we all have to become alert about this, is that invasion of India did India no good. I have now become convinced about that. Like
Yes.
America is a land of immigrants. It has done the country a great good, but India was not a land of immigrants. It was a land of invaders,
Yeah.
looters, rapists, murderers, plunderers. They were not
Yes.
invited as America. We are here on a visa or we're
Right.
granted a citizenship. They came, they invaded. British came, invaded, looted, and left. The Mughals and Muslims came, looted, lived, and they said these Hindus are easy people to manage. So let's live here and become Indians. So I was horrified that one of my Muslim friends in Bombay, he told me, when you guys are unhappy with us Muslims that we did all the plundering and looting, but that is the game of the winner. When you go and conquer, that is the victor's pride. This is the victor's celebration. We will do
Yes.
that. I said, that's pretty blasphemy statement that you are making. So
Yes.
then in that case, shall we plunder you and loot you and rape you now? Will that justify my action?
Right.
Then he kept quiet.
Yes.
That's the point which I'm trying to say, that I'm very glad about this awareness and awakening.
Yes.
I'll use the 4 A's which I said to you earlier on:
Absolutely.
aware,
Arise, awake,
awakening,
assert and act.
assert,
I
and
can
act.
never forget it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And
It is
I'll share
it
this
is
with you.
applicable to every facet of our life.
Right, every facet of it.
Without
Here,
a doubt.
I'm very happy to share with you one important news that came today. Two
Yes.
important news. For
Okay.
once, the Hindus in America united behind the symbol swastik. So you remember, I mean, all the
Yes. We
viewers,
were
the
discussing that.
swastik symbol, the New York State Assembly and Senate was going to write a hate bill in which they were going to use swastik as a hate symbol. Cut the story short, we had a major uproar in our community. Swastik united us for a change, and we fought the battle. We had a Zoom meeting with many politicians, and I'm happy to inform you, as this moment, today morning, the news came that bill has been scrapped.
That is super.
That is so super.
Amazing. Super.
Second
Absolutely.
one, second one, you may have heard about that in many parts of US, when 370 happened, 35A happened, CA happened. So many people, many municipalities, I call them municipalities of Minneapolis and San Francisco, they all passed resolutions that India is
Against,
acting,
yeah,
anti-Islamic, anti-Muslim, and all that.
that's
Chicago
also
was going to
strategy.
do that.
Yes.
Chicago Municipal Council was going to do that. It has been defeated. That
Defeated.
bill
Yes.
was defeated by a
Yes.
margin of 28 to 16. And that's
Amazing.
another great win because this is the first one,
Yes.
a complete democratic council defeated
Yes.
the bill. These are very important things to happen. And third one was Rutgers University, that Audrey Truschke. She is so anti-India. She was talking Aurangzeb as a messiah of peace, that he was not a bad guy. It's Hindus who were the bad guys, and Aurangzeb did too much, lot of good to India.
Yeah.
We contested that. She was
Yes.
so Hindu-phobic, so Indo-phobic, that her
Yeah.
statements and tweets are full of hate for India. But the
Okay.
moment we collaborated, we created an organization of very young people. It's called Coalition of Hindus of North America. And,
Wow.
Rutgers University, where so many Indians study there in New Jersey, Rutgers University apologized to the Hindu community.
Wonderful.
We
Amazing.
had a meeting, they
What
apologized.
unity can do.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we have to, which is what I have been saying.
In
I'm
our
really
own
a nice
country,
guy,
we
but
Hindus
nobody
find it so
listens to
difficult
us.
to assert ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? In our own country, we find it so difficult to assert ourselves against CAA. Still, there are people talking negative things about it, even though not a single Muslim has lost his citizenship because of CAA. But
Right.
still, it is happening all the time. People are, spreading false propaganda, and there are
Right.
many people still answering them back and clapping for them. That's happening.
Right.
Now, as you were talking, I just remembered about appeasement, and I realized that somebody was asking BJP people that you did not give even a single ticket to the Muslim.
Right.
So they said, we will not give a Muslim a ticket because he's a Muslim and we want to get Muslim votes. If we
Right.
really feel that he stands for the country, then
Right.
he will get the ticket.
Correct.
And even then, in 85% of the Muslim constituencies, BJP has won.
Right.
That is the truth. So people can see. We understand that Islam has got certain dogmas which has led to certain strife in the country. It has happened for several years. Like we said, Taimur killed 17 million people, it seems. Taimur killed.
Right.
And then Babur, thousands of men killed. Women were raped in broad daylight in front of other people because it was assertion of power. They were sold in Kabul and Kandahar, all kinds of atrocities performed. Now, we are not getting anything by why are we going back to history? Like you said, we don't want that to repeat itself. Again and again, it seems Muhammad Ghori came and attacked at least 5-6 times, and each time Prithviraj Chauhan defeated him, forgave him, and he went back. And last time he came, there was a Hindu king he could placate, and with his support, he defeated Prithviraj Chauhan. So why we should learn history, why we should go back to history is not because we get a pleasure thinking about what happened during the Mohammedan period.
Correct.
But that is a lesson for us. So many 60,000 temples were destroyed. For 3 full months, Nalanda University was burning.
Right.
So that is the kind of atrocities they carried out. And we see that this kind of behavior continues even today in countries where Islam is the ruling religion. So do we want that back in India? No. So if we want to live peacefully, we want the people who in our country, the Muslims also, to understand that I respect my religion, I follow my religion, but I'm not going to step into your realm. Like you rightly said, I'm not going to intimidate you. I'm not going to terrorize you. I'm not going to use power politics. At least that should be clear.
Right.
That is why we are talking about. We don't want people to become angry or anything. The idea is not to incite violence. The
Right.
idea is not to incite anger. But we want everybody, even if our own grandfather has done something wrong, it is only right for us to understand. If, for example, if my grandfather had fought with a relative, and because of that, 2-3 generations, people have not talked. If I meet somebody in Mumbai, the young person from the third generation has come to Mumbai. It happened with us. So we met, and then we came to know, oh, the surname is the same. Then from where you are, then we came to know, and I hugged. And I said, whatever happened those days, we do not know. Who was right, who was wrong, we do not know.
Right.
But now we know that we should be fair and square and straightforward with each other. So let us start on a fresh footing, but always remember the lessons. So I came back home and asked my mom what happened. I came to know, but then I decided that this lesson I will not forget. I will remember what happened. But at the same, I'm not going to keep repeating, but I'm going to remember that. And all of us need to remember that. All of us should be told the truth. It should not be hidden from youngsters. They should know the truth, and then they should embrace Islam and Muslims openly. And so should Muslims and people who follow Islam, Indian culture. That's
See, there
very
is a
important.
very you raise a very important point, that to learn from history and make sure you don't repeat the mistakes.
Yes,
If
it is
if you
happening all the time.
it's happening all the time. Yeah. So it is very clear. If you are
Yeah,
here, then be like us. Be like Indians. You do not
yes,
insert
yeah,
that my Sharia is the governing law.
exactly,
Why India doesn't have a common civil code?
exactly.
Why there
See,
why does it have to have a separate personal law board? Right? This all
exactly,
happened during Congress party. They
absolutely.
allowed everybody to practice the whole thing. When you come to America, you
They're
you know
following American rule, American
they're
law, right?
following civil law here. So it
Yes,
is you are an American. That's simple as that. You may have your own identity as an Indian American, which is what the
yes,
fashion here. They say the melting pot is over. Everybody is a pudina or a pudina of different kind in the melting pot. But the point of the matter is that you have
yes,
your own identity, live with your identity, but within the realms of the country's rules and regulations. So the
absolutely.
point is that I personally believe, I have been talking about it, we must replace the usage of word as acceptance instead of tolerance.
Tolerance. Very true.
I
Very
do
true.
not like the
Absolutely.
word tolerance at all. It's like
Very
tolerance is I have no choice but to live with it. You know, I
true. I
tolerate
know.
you because I have
Yeah.
no choice but because you are there. You know,
What can I do?
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Your
It is
entire
so very
behavior.
condescending when you are saying to use the word tolerant. You're so very condescending.
We should be
Accepting
religiously
is more
tolerant.
embracing, more
Even though
open.
they are hateful people, let's tolerate them. No, I'm saying
Yes.
that accept the other person the way he or she is.
Yes.
That's the real
Absolutely.
way of moving forward.
Yes.
Toleration is not, acceptance is. In our
Very true.
Hindu way of life, and that's the
Yes.
beauty which I've shared with my American friends, that
Yeah.
if you want authentic world peace, you have to accept only one tenet of Hinduism. Just one
Yes.
tenet of Hinduism. They said, what is that? I said, replace the word tolerance with acceptance.
Acceptance.
You
Yes.
accuse us that we worship so many gods. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. And that's the
Accept.
we have many reincarnations of God, or many manifestations of God. So I gave them three examples. Let me give you that. I'll share with the audience here.
Yes.
We are often accused of worshipping to lots of gods. I said no. If God created the universe, you agree with that? I agree with that. Right? Unless and until you are a believer in the theory of evolution, that's another conversation.
It is
I'm
okay.
not
Yeah.
going to go into that. But be it evolution or be it God creation, we are just
Whichever way.
same as human beings. Men and women have
Yeah.
identical body parts performing same function. No difference,
Yes.
right?
Very true.
If the God created this entire universe to make us a living entity, He created life sustaining forces. Agree
Very
with
true.
me? They said yes.
Yes.
I said, what are the life sustaining forces? Think about it in that way. So none of us have seen God. Nobody has ever seen God. You may have a realization or feeling of God, that I saw God in somebody, or I had a God like feeling. I'm not contesting that.
You
But
have
in real
godlike
terms,
experience. Yes.
yeah, it's a God-like
Yeah.
experience. So the
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
is, I said, God created life-sustaining forces, and what are they? I said, let's talk about only three life-sustaining forces. I said, sun is a
Yes.
source of energy, right? But for sun, we would be
Yeah.
in ice age. frozen to death. Nothing, none, we will be over, right? Without
Absolutely.
energy. Sun has a form. Sun has a form. Rising sun to setting sun, it has various times of the day. The truth is that it rises in the east, sets in the west. Can we accept that reality that we need energy and our bodily functions? And we always say, use your energy properly. You need
Yeah.
to sustain your energy. And energy is the function that allows us to perform better, right?
Yes,
The
absolutely.
correlation established between sun, energy, and our own internal energy.
The diurnal cycle
Right.
establishes its own, yes,
Right.
very important for us.
Very,
Yes.
very important for us.
If
So,
imagine one day the sun were not to rise or the sun doesn't set, both are going to cause such a chaos.
correct.
Right?
So I said to them, so would you accept my plea that if I am inspired, I say, I express my gratitude to God. You Christians talk about gratitude as a word. So if I express my gratitude to God for giving me sun to sustain myself, I'm inspired by it, and I pray to that form of sun, anything wrong in it? No, that's okay. That's okay. That was their instant response. Then I said, let's look at water.
Yes.
70% of our body is water. It's a life sustaining power, comes in ocean, river, rain, in all forms. And here is a curious thing about water, it assumes the shape and size in exactly what it goes into. Girijaa, here it
Yes.
is. It assumes the shape and size of anything that it goes into. So in the water in the glass assumes this spherical form. In a flat
Yes.
vessel, it goes assumes another form. Can I say that I'm inspired by the flowing river, sound of flowing river? So I can express my gratitude to God for giving us water.
Absolutely.
Our
Yes.
70% of our body is water. We
Water.
replenish our water. We prevent our dehydration from taking water by taking water. So
Absolutely.
if I worship a form like water, fluid, anything wrong in it? He says, no, it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Then the
Yeah.
third one I said, here is another life sustaining force, air. It's
Absolutely.
invisible. It's
Breath.
omnipresent, omniscient everywhere. But for air, we would be dead in a nanosecond. Nothing will survive. It has no
Absolutely.
form. So whether I pray to a form, a non-form, or a liquid form, it doesn't matter. I'm only acknowledging God's presence in these formats. So we give a form, non-form, or a liquid. So you pray to whatever inspires you. That's what is the definition of our learning that we say. And then they tell me, why the hell don't you talk about your faith? It makes a lot of sense. I said, that's the point. That's where we have failed. That we are not
Yes.
talking about these things.
Talking about ourselves. Yes.
Yes, we are not talking about ourselves. So it's time
So,
for us
like
to,
when you talked about
teach.
the, yeah, you were talking about the five elements.
Right.
I just remembered, we always worship them. Even today, we say Vayu Bhagwan,
Mhm.
Agni Bhagwan. Any marriage, anything of sanctity takes place
Right.
in front of the fire, right?
Correct.
Because we know that the fire is the purifying force. Similarly, water. Why do we worship Ganga?
Right.
Because it is a river. It is a purifying river. So we worship our Mother Earth, right? This Bhuma Devi, we call it. So every aspect of nature we worship. In fact, even several animals. So snake is worshipped. Why? Because so that cow is worshipped as Gomata. Every animal we have sanctity for that because we know that there is an ecosystem and we have no business touching them or disturbing them. Let them live. At least the basic thing is that if you do not get into too much of details, at least respect for all the creatures
Right.
created in nature,
Correct.
respect for the universe, respect for the various elements. So don't contaminate water because without pure air we can't live. We say that air is free, but there may come a time that we may have to pay for the air that we are breathing in. We may have to walk with oxygen cylinders if we are totally like irresponsible like this, right? So that is why to create that kind of respect, that is why they said they created the sphere. They created them as deities, not that, but they are actually the deities. Like you said, water is 70% of our body. So that is why we say that near water resources, if we talk anything negative, the water vibration in the water, the elements show that. It has been proved in experiments that the
Right.
water turns toxic and it emanates a very bad smell when people stand near the water and for a continuous period of time they talk something negative, it is shown. So if that is the effect that it can have on a pond, it was done by Japanese, that experiment, then imagine what kind of an effect it can have on the human mind.
Correct.
So
Right.
if that is the effect that will have on our body, that is how people get all kinds of diseases,
Right.
because there is lot of negativity all around. If people are talking negative about you, your birthplace, your religion, your culture, then imagine the kind of mental state in which the people must have lived in those days. How
Right.
could have art or culture or education thrived? How much of mental agony people must have gone through? If, like Kashmiri Pandits who came from there, look at the place where their Muslims are predominant, so Hindus are all thrown out. So that is the kind of culture that prevails, and we allow that to continue, ignoring history. It is not. It was not many years back that Kashmiri Pandits were thrown out. So we ignore that, and it keeps on happening in several parts of the country. Even today, it is happening in Goa. So an entire village is set on fire, right? You find here that at Palghar, sadhus were lynched. So this kind of atrocities happening on Hindus, because we think that okay, we should not unnecessarily raise a voice. There is a government to take care of everything. We trust that they will do justice, and we keep quiet. But that's not the way. We don't have to incite violence, but we still have to keep on asking for what is right. Like you said, how you asserted your right and prevented the bill from being passed, got all the people united. That is how we need to work in India. So this awareness becomes very, very important, right?
Yeah,
So
you're absolutely right, and that's where I talk about the element is what next.
yes, huh,
It's knowing what we do now.
yes,
This is a very important time. Like to have a knowledge and information is not enough. What are we doing about it?
absolutely.
So this is what is critical
Kind
for,
and act, yes,
yeah,
yes,
critical about this part, that the concept of Lakshman Rekha must
yes,
play a critical role in our lives, and we all apply it
yes.
in
What is
all
it that
our
we can
individual
accept and what we
behavior.
cannot accept?
Right.
Absolutely.
What we accept, what we can, what is the line that you won't cross and you will not let anybody cross. That's
Right.
important. So while the government is doing its job, or is supposed
Yes,
to do its job, you and
yes,
I also have to do our own little bit. Because when
yes,
somebody attacks our family, at that time, I'm not going to wait for the police to come and arrive. We have to arise and fight. So whether
absolutely.
you are a vegan, vegetarian, or ahimsa ke param pujari, whatever you may be, if somebody
Yes,
attacks your family, you will have to rise. And you have
absolutely.
to rise to protect and defend your honor of your family. If you do not, then you lose out. And not only that, you have to be in a state of preparedness. That's
Yes.
important too. Just
That
because,
alertness.
yes, you have to be prepared as well to fight. Whether you
Yes,
you may be totally non-violent person, you may be vegan, vegetarian, or ahimsa ke param pujari, but you will have to keep the shastra to ensure that nobody ends up abusing you. So not shastra is not enough. Shastra is also required, because you know just because you are a Jain, and if a snake comes to bite your son or daughter or in your family, you will try to scare away, if not kill the son, right?
right.
Kill the snake. That's the point
Absolutely.
which I'm trying to say, that Hindus have to arise from that perspective, that I'm not going to take the crap anymore. And this is where my mind turned. I'll give you this example. See, many years ago, we take it for, we are very simple people. As a Pakistani friend of mine told me, you Hindus are very nice guys. You will give and do anything for shanti and peace.
Very true.
So we will create trouble for you all the time. That's our nature. That's the way we are. We will,
Yes,
so 10 Muslims will come and create a hangama in a village, and 1,000 Hindus will leave. I'm
absolutely.
saying this is a very important narrative that I experienced. There are two very important stories. January 19th last year, not 2019, was the 50th anniversary of the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits from Kashmir.
Yes,
We observed that 50th year. So all Kashmiri Pandit, and we feel very proud about the fact that when they said that 5 lakh or 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits were suffered the exodus, insult, rape, murder, killings, and everything else. But not one of them
It's gone back.
became a jihadi. Not one of
Exactly.
them became great. But that's where the story stops. When I shared this with my American friends, they say that's truly remarkable. Their statement was very true. This is truly remarkable. But you mean to say that nobody fought back? There was a very powerful query. You mean to say
Exactly.
nobody fought back? You were suffering all this stuff. What were you waiting for, and who were you waiting for to rescue you? You mean to say a country of 80% Hindus, of 1.2 billion people, nobody fought back?
So sad and so
Oh,
absolutely.
that's the food for thought. I
That should,
remember this. My heart really began boiling. In 1990, I was in Delhi at that time. I was already, the
okay.
announcement had been made that I was coming to the US.
Yeah.
But we did not hear the story of Kashmiri Pandits' exodus because the press
Yes.
completely.
Absolutely. Silenced everything.
Who were the rulers? The Congress Party.
Congress Party.
Think
Yeah.
about it. 1990, it was Rajiv Gandhi's government, or he had lost power, or whatever was happening. 1991 election happened. He was
Right.
killed. But India was in a real political mess. There were vested interests that did not let the news flow. So much so that, oh, it is Kashmiri Pandit's problem, it's not ours.
Yeah.
Even as a matter of fact, I'll tell you the true story. There was a Malayali friend of mine. He said, why the hell don't we give this place to them, to Pakistan? Let's forget about the peace. I said, if it comes to giving away, and here is my answer to them, if it comes to giving away, I would rather give Kerala, because he's a great dear friend. I would rather give Kerala to Pakistan. At least I know I can control it with my navy. But why would I give Kashmir? Because it doesn't matter to you. That's the way we have become lethargic and uninvolved. We think
Right.
that it is Kashmiri problem, not my problem. It is everybody's problem. It is we have to think about it from that perspective. That's so important that if we do not realize these things, and the second one was when Ram Temple, Mandir Temple happened. I was in India at that time.
Okay.
The classic Hindu, I'm a Hindu, ठीक है, जाने दो, बन गया तो बन गया. तो क्या है? What is the problem in it? What's so big deal? Ram Mandir, Ayodhya was destroyed, Ram Mandir was destroyed, and Babar's mosque was made. Then a thought occurred to me as an inquiry that for us, Ramji is Bhagwan. We treat him as Bhagwan. He's a Vishnu ka avatar, and we have
And
that.
it is his birthplace.
This is his birthplace. But
Yes.
Babar was not a god in Islam. Babar was not a local guy. He was an invader, and he destroyed the temple and built the
Mosque.
in.
And 60,000 such temples were destroyed, and still we didn't
I
say
will come to
anything.
that
We have
later.
only asked for 3.
Yeah, I will come back
Exactly.
to that later. But the point here is that I asked some of my friends like Javed Bhai and others, yeah,
Uh-huh.
आप लोग को इतनी क्या तकलीफ है? एक मंदिर मांगने में आपको इतनी तकलीफ हो रही है? His answer was, we will fight not to give any. And if I win Ram Mandir through democratic process and Babri Masjid remains, then there will be no more questions asked. But we fear that अगर एक Ram Mandir बन गया, तो फिर आप सब मांगेंगे वापस. So I asked him, why can't you give this as a part of a generous principle?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
what
that
do
is
you do?
for
Because I don't need to
mosque is
prove
only
that-
a place to
right,
congregation, right? And they are allowed to do namaz everywhere,
right.
not just in that mosque. So they can
Exactly.
set up the mosque somewhere else where a
Correct.
place is given to them.
Correct.
But they didn't easily agree
The
for it.
other part was equally important is that I said that, look, I do not need the evidence of temples destroyed by Mughals, because there is a Mughal architecture or Mughal mosque over a temple. That is
Yes.
a proof.
Yes.
Why can't you return these to us? What was Hindus, let it be. Build a mosque somewhere else. But when I saw that they had a complete intolerance about that, they wanted to this is story of the 90s. This is not historical evidence of 1340. This is 1990 in Delhi. That's the time when I said, oh my God, these people are not willing to accept us for what we are. They are not willing to give us anything which was ours. They
Ours.
want to rule us, they want to subjugate us, and they want to humiliate us. That's the time when I changed my platform. I said, no.
The intentions have not changed over the
Yes,
years.
yes, the
Exactly.
intentions have not changed. So we have to kind of begin to claim what was
Yes,
ours. If we don't
absolutely.
claim, who will? Why would anybody give anything back to us? And that's the important part for us to remember to do that. Yeah.
Very true. Very often, like I have heard this narrative that, why people, Muslims do it. They are people who have been treated very badly. They are in poverty. So, our anti colonial anger, feelings, so they are doing it. But we also went through
Yeah.
colonial rule, but we are not fighting with them, fighting against them with terrorism. And there are many Hindus, like you rightly said, thrown out of their houses, burnt, lost their jobs, gone through so much, but still they don't turn into
Right.
terrorists. None of them have become that.
Right.
So that cannot be an excuse, because fundamental values you have to remain true to them. Whatever the test, that is a true test of a human being. So
Right.
you can't give those excuses, the saying that because of poverty they have become terrorists.
Nah, that's total rubbish. We all know that 9/11 attack on the
Yes,
United States that
he
happened, they were
he
all
accepted
mechanical
that it is
engineers.
because
They
of
were all
Islam, faith in Islam.
educated
Atta,
people.
right?
Right.
Muhammad Atta, he
Right.
says that because of my faith in Islam, says that we all infidels should be killed. That's why we did it. That's it.
Right.
He
That's
said that.
yeah.
Similarly, there was a person who killed that French director Van Gogh. He
Yeah.
also said the same thing. I believe in Islam, and Islam has directed her to do it. So that is the kind of faith they have. If a religion tells that people should be killed if they don't follow your religion, then that is so authoritarian and it is so inhuman against other people.
Right. Right.
That
Yeah.
is the most, yeah. So you follow your religion, but don't force it on others. And then don't say that they don't have a right to live the way they want to live in this world.
Right. And
That is,
that's what I told my American friends, that they follow the principle of acceptance. So
yeah,
somebody is inspired by Krishna, some by Ram, some by Hanuman, some by Gayatri
yes.
Devi, somebody Venkateshwar, somebody Guru Ayur. I mean, everywhere there are many manifestations of God.
Yeah. My
But
mother also used to
I said
say
they
about
all
the same
live in
thing.
the same temple. If I go
Yeah,
to the temple and I offer my prayers to
everywhere.
Mahalakshmi
Yeah.
and Ganesh, doesn't mean that Venkateshwar comes running after me that you didn't pray to me, I'm going to kill you. No.
First, you didn't pray to me first. No.
Yeah.
Yes,
There is no
exactly.
such thing. That is the beauty of our faith. Pray to
All
whoever
of
you
us are
want.
so different. All
Yeah.
of us are so different. Our personalities are so different. Somebody is so very particular about discipline. For him, maybe Maryada Purushottam Rama will be acceptable. Somebody is very playful, and he would probably like Krishna. Somebody is very in awe of the power of women, of motherhood, then maybe Durga or Gayatri. Or somebody who is always in awe of learning would go for Saraswati. Wealth will go for Lakshmi. So there are various deities offered so that you can worship God in whichever form you fancy. Because God is not put in any particular form. It is just like water taking the shape of the vessel that it contains.
Right.
Similarly, again, God is what whom you perceive him to be.
Right.
That's it. It can be him, it can be her, it can be any form. That's it. It is a power. The power has to pulsate through you. That's it. It's not necessary that you've got to define it, nor it's necessary that others have to accept it.
Right.
As
Correct.
long as for you, you are true to that, that should be okay.
True.
We need not have to explain to somebody else why do we worship, because we do not ask them why do you observe this full moon and the new moon, why is the moon in some part of the world it is some other day, why is it changing every day. We don't ask these kind of questions. Your faith, you do it. Even in offices they will come, probably like even in a plane when we are going, you see that they are doing namaz. We don't say, why are you obstructing our way? We respect that they follow that discipline wherever they go, whatever the inconvenience, still they are doing it. I really appreciate that. So see the good in everybody and also allow people to live the way they wish to, and
Right.
that too in their own land. They're not coming and usurping you, your house, your territory, nothing. Everybody does it in their own space,
Right.
right? So at least give that freedom. That is one more thing. And another thing, when we're talking about how Hindus need to become aware, I just remembered a story. There is a story that there is a sadhu and he goes to a village, and all the village people go and tell him, there is this, we have to cross a particular path in the forest to go to the city, and in this particular narrow road there is a snake which lives on the roadside, and he keeps on coming and biting each one of us. So we are all the time constantly in fear. So what do we do? So sadhu said, don't worry, I will advise a snake. So he walked along the road and he saw the snake coming towards him, hissing, and he said, please stop. And he said, I have a request. Why do you want to all the time bite these people? What do you gain out of this? So he said, if I don't do it, they are going to kill me. He said, no, 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 don't kill. They won't kill you. They are busy with their own life. They are not going to kill you. He just went him. And so the snake said, okay, Sadhuji, I will follow whatever your instruction. After 3-4 months, again the sadhu was coming to the village, and he saw near the snake's hole the snake lying, and it was like a tatter of cloth, and so much panting for breath, blood all over. So he asked, what happened to you? So he said, Sadhuji, I followed your instruction. So this is what people are doing. They're pelting stones at me. Somebody is coming and hitting me. This is what they are doing to me. So Sadhuji said, I told you, do not bite the people. But I never told you, don't raise your hood and don't hiss. So you have to maintain a safe distance. You have to protect your territory. You have to see that people don't encroach upon your territory. They don't hurt you. That is your swadharma. To protect yourself is your right.
Right.
So nobody can stop you from doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So your life is invaluable to you. Your body is invaluable to you. So why would you allow anybody to do that? Then the snake realized. He applied medicine on the snake and said that always protect yourself. So
Absolutely.
this is something that all of us need to learn from history.
That's
So
right.
when we talked about all this today, the idea is, like I said, not to become bitter about the people who follow that religion, but to become understand and become more powerful. Like he says, arise, awake, assert, and be ready to act. Create an ecosystem where, like you call 911, and it comes immediately. We have to create a system like this. Like you created a system where all the Indians could get together and they could stop that bill from being passed in the parliament against the swastik. So we need to create system like this in India so that we stand as support for each other and not be divided amongst us.
Yeah, absolutely correct. So, as we are coming to the hour mark here, I just wanted to say that one of
Yes,
the vicious attacks that
yes,
the non-Hindus make on us is that we are disrespectful to women. That's one thing which happened. But
yeah,
I tell them that we are the only faith or way of life in the world which accords equal
right,
status to women, because so many of the Shakti and so
yes,
much of interest has been vested in women as Lakshmi, as Kali, as Durga, and in many Saraswati, in many forms, and Shiv and Parvati are the original examples of gender equality. Do you have anything like that? So don't consider, I ask them, do you have anything like that, equality of men and women? You talk about as a constitutional right. We talk about as a life. There's a lot of
yes,
difference in there. So we have to begin to know, to narrate these stories to them and tell them the story of Shiv and Parvati, that Shiv is scared of only one entity, and that is Parvati. So,
yes. Ardangini, eh?
so
Ardangini, eh?
the point is that Shiv doesn't become any inferior because he is scared of Parvati, and so goes the story. The point which
Yes,
I'm trying to make to you and to all the audience, those who are watching us, is get to know ourselves. Because
yes,
unless and until we know ourselves,
yes.
you cannot defend yourself.
Very
And
true.
that's what I admire the Islam and Christians. These people are very devoted to their text. They know
Yes.
what to follow. They have been told to do this, so they do it.
And not only that, they defend themselves
They
even if it is
defend
not
it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said that, okay, people did all this not because they were the religion dictated, but because they were valiant and they destroyed temples. But if it is something against the religion would have condemned them, would have punished them, because that religion is not tolerant like Hindus,
Right, right.
right?
The
They
other
would have.
point which is very
So, but
important.
still they are not accepting it.
That's right. They're not
They are not
accepting it
accepting
because
it.
they
Many of us
believe.
also go with them, and we
Yes,
also support them. That is
correct.
the thing.
So that is what is important to remember, is that they have been told, they have been taught to follow,
Yes.
that this
Right.
is the only way to heaven.
To live.
For
Yes.
us, the path to heaven could be many for different people. For us, our actions define us. Just praying to God 29 times doesn't make us go to heaven if we have performed too many sins, sinful
Yes.
activities. In
Right.
their case, you can kill others in the name of God and go to heaven. That's the problem that we have. And we have
Absolutely.
to we have to kind of become aware of this, that you be happy the way you are. Don't tell me
Yes.
I'm wrong. Have the courage to say so. Have the courage
Yes.
to stand up for that.
Right.
We have to become a stand of our own. And that's what is important. You want to continue on? We have completed an
Don't
hour.
just I will just close it. Let us not buy stories that, okay, this person is into violence because he's poor, or he has been,
Right.
traumatized, he has been troubled. Both Karna and Krishna went through a lot of problems in their life. They both were, deserted by their parents, or the parents could not bring them up. They were brought up by somebody. They were called, like, Sutputra, or somebody was called Yadava, whatever. But you see how Krishna was. He was so positive and pleasant, whereas Karna was so bitter. So what he turned out to be, his life became so much of a mess and unhappiness. That is because he carried the burden of all the time feeling that I'm the victim, I'm the victim. Whereas Krishna did not consider himself a victim.
Right.
He said, these are circumstances, and I am the person who will make my destiny.
Correct.
So, this is my request to anybody who thinks of himself as a victim, and so he thinks that I can victimize others. Let us not fall a prey to that. Don't let anybody carry that narrative. Tell them very clearly, nobody is a victim. This is a land of free opportunities. You are given so many rights. You have to educate yourself and come up in life. All opportunities are available for everybody.
Absolutely.
No land is better than India. That is why we find that the population of Muslims is increasing in India from the time that we got independence.
True.
Whereas in other countries, Hindus, like the 21% were there in Pakistan, now it is 1%, 31% was there in Bangladesh, now it is 7%. But here we have seen that the Muslim population has increased. Welcome, no problem. This is a land for plenty, everybody, but live happily. Let everybody live happily. Let
Absolutely.
us know our rights. So again, let us close with your 4 words: arise, awake, assert, and act.
Act.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Girijaa. It's wonderful to be with you, and thank you all the audience.
Amazing.
And
Yes.
see you again.
Learned a lot from you today.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
all learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, dear friends.